Welcome to a special edition of the Rugby Bits podcast, in which you will actually find all four members of the Rugby Bits podcast in one recording. I'm Tana, I've got Sean, I've got Jared, and Cooks. Today, we're going to preview a big Super Saturday that's going to be coming in the final round of the Six Nations. We're going to look through each of the matches and try to see what is going to happen on Saturday, and of course, with a big focus on that massive Ireland versus England clash in Dublin on Saturday. Sean, Cooks, Jared, how are you guys doing? Let's maybe start with Jared. Long time no see.
Yeah, it's great to be back on the pod, and I can't believe we've managed to get everyone around the table, and perfect timing at least, so that we can talk about the Six Nations Super Saturday. And I like that you called the massive clash being Ireland versus England, when we all know that the big game is at the start of the day between Scotland and Italy.
Yeah, hopefully a relegation 6-pointer. And yeah, it's great that we can all just get together. And just an apologies early on for the quality of our sound. Unfortunately, I couldn't bring my podcasting equipment for this one. Bunks, no Finn Russell this week, so I'm very surprised you're actually on this pod.
I'm just here because Jared is here. It's been a while since all four of us have actually all been together, but I thought I'll have the same injury that Finn had. But so basically, my afternoon only starts in the later games. So the first game I'm definitely missing, because if there's no Finn, there's no party, unfortunately.
Cooks, I am touched that you're here just to talk to me, mate. I do appreciate that.
No, I am. I couldn't have you on Monday after Scotland loss. I thought if you're available on Monday, I'd have definitely missed it. I couldn't face you off for the Scotland loss. I couldn't. So now I've had a couple of days to recover. I'm looking forward to the new week. I'm a new man, so that I'm in a good space.
Yeah, you've got that Wednesday rest day that the players get as well.
yeah, 100%. So I'm ready to talk about. I'd like to just vent on Gregor Townsend. So they lose to Italy this weekend. The blame is solely on him.
We're getting spicy already. And then Sean, I think unfortunately, there's not going to be too much focus on this game, but the France versus Wales game, I think, yeah, it's not looking good for Welsh people. I think they were laughing at England during the match and then realized that they're the ones facing France next week.
Yeah, hi. And it's so good to have everyone on. But I think a lot of the world will be watching France if they don't have any interest in the other games, just purely because of what France did on the weekend and trying to look for them where they're going, and also to see what Wales can pick up. So we're actually in for a great 3 games where they all actually do have a bit of meaning, especially being a World Cup year and all.
Yeah, so let's get on to first discussing, I think, the main match of the weekend, the Grand Slam decider. It's a beat. Ireland versus England. Ireland playing in Dublin. It's St. Patrick's Day weekend. England coming off a massive record home loss, and England having a few injury concerns. But let's start with Ireland. Jared, maybe just also getting your impressions of Ireland this on Sunday and then problem solving their way to a victory after losing their 2 hookers, probably the best player in the tournament, Caelan Doris, and Ian Henderson during the game. Is there anything that Ireland should be concerned about before facing England?
Yeah, it's always difficult when you take on a wounded dog. I think that's the biggest thing you can say about England, is that they'll definitely be looking to pull something out of their arse for this match. But at the same time, you've listed all the reasons why Ireland want to win this. It's St. Paddy's weekend. It's another chance to get a Grand Slam. They haven't won a Six Nations under Andy Farrell, despite being pretty much in the running for all of them. I think that he's finished in the top 3 in every Six Nations he's coached. So they would want to deliver a Six Nations Grand Slam, not just for the fans, but for him as well. So, yeah, I think Ireland will be stressing over the likes of Sheehan and Kelleher, and I think losing Ringrose was also quite a big blow for them. But yeah, you would expect them, after what they showed at the weekend, you'd expect them to get over the line. They're such a clever, intelligent team that has attacked brilliantly throughout the competition, and I think their defense has been a little bit underrated as well. But Yeah, what I loved about the match is that they made plans about with Josh throwing in at the line out, Healy scrummaging at hooker, and it's things that they learned from the last Six Nations campaign when they played against Italy, and Italy lost both their hookers in their match against Ireland, and they reacted by the very next tour that they went on when they went to New Zealand. Healy was already listed as a hooker. So yeah, that's just great foresight from their coaching team. They're so well prepared, and like you guys said on the pod, they seem to have a 25-hour day to prepare for test matches.
And then, Sean, it seems like that's the only main injury concerns at the moment is that Ringrose is definitely out. Sheehan is probably out. The likes of McKenna can still make it. I'm not sure. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But it doesn't seem like there'll be too many losses for Ireland. I mean, Rob Herring is not a bad international cook at all. So it doesn't seem like there'll be too much disruption. Robbie Henshaw accounting for Rick Rose. They'll still have a very strong team also.
Yeah, they will. Very interesting. I know we all speak very highly of Gary Ringrose, and obviously he's taken a bad knock. But one thing that we do need to look at is he was definitely taken through the cleaners on defense against Scotland. He missed 7 tackles. It's the lowest I've ever seen his tackle completion percentage ever. So him not being there is quite interesting. They obviously need to look at what's going to happen. The way I see it is they're going to put Henshaw at 13, or then they're going to bring McCloskey at 12 and then put Aki at 13. But I think they'll probably go with Henshaw at 13. But Ireland, one of my mates on Saturday, basically, I had 2 of them in the group, and they were just like, yeah, like I was just saying, this is quite something from Ireland, and they were like, yeah, but you know, they've got no hope of doing it. They've never made it past the quarterfinals in a World Cup. I was like, yeah, okay, that's amazing. And the other one was like, in key positions they don't have in key positions they don't have depth. I think the complete opposite. I think they have, obviously barring the obvious of the issue with Johnny Sexton and replacing him, which has been the focus, they've built up and made plans all over the park. So, I mean, just alone that Cian Healy move and the Van der Fleer line-out move alone is shown what sort of planning and what sort of disruption, because everyone knows that Farrell loves creating disruption. Like when they're late, he's like, this is great. The team will learn disruption. They're learning a lot of valuable lessons, and lessons that they are going to draw on in tight games.
And Brooks, I think we discussed this in the earlier part this week about Ireland looking like they are as prepared as, you know, the best sides in the world are. But let's focus on England a little bit. England has a few injury concerns of their own. Ollie Lawrence has been out for this weekend. There's now more questions about who's going to play in the 10, 12, 13 channel. And yeah, I guess a debate as to whether England just tries, you know, just has a completely new side or tries to maintain some consistency. So, Brooks, where do you fall into that argument?
Okay, like we mentioned on Monday, if you're a team with a bit of disruption, you don't know who your 10, 12, 13 combination is going to be. The last team you want to play against is Ireland, who thrive off picking off any selection mistakes or anyone who's sort of trying to figure out a position or positional switch. I mean, that's us. Josh Adam was playing at 13 last year in the Six Nations. So, man, it's so tough for England, because you generally feel like if, for example, let's say he drops Marcus, Borthwick drops Marcus Smith, then it's, you see, now is Marcus Smith done for his test career? What happens now? Or is it, when does he play again? Does he go back to Farrell? Now I see Ford's back in the mix. So it's some of those questions like, what does Borthwick want to do moving forward? Because I feel like the 10-12 combination, or the 10 he picks now in the Six Nations in this last game, it has to be the 10 going forward, because they only have a couple of warm-up fixtures coming up, and then it's straight into the World Cup. So to leave, I mean, let's say, for example, he does pick George Ford. I mean, to leave the Six Nations having played 3 10s and not knowing who your 10 is, I mean, Tuilagi should play this weekend with him being back. Is he going to play at 12? Is he going to play at 13? I think the questions that England have got to answer aren't great questions to have to answer when you have about 3 games left until you go for the World Cup. So I personally would probably stick with Smith and sort of the same, and put Tuilagi at 12. Henry Slade. Henry Slade had a terrible game, but this is me giving him the benefit of the doubt because I am a big Henry Slade fan, and sort of putting Smith there and then having Farrell on the bench again and sort of be like, listen, Smith, there's another chance. He has experience campaigning Tuilagi and Slade on your outside, and then I throw Youngs at 9. I think I'd like to give Marcus Smith's experience on his inside and outside, and then take it from there and see how he goes. And for the pack, I am finding ways to put extra bricks in some of those forwards as back pocket to beefing them up a little bit because, Ireland will definitely test them up front. But yeah, I'll go Young, Smith, Tuilagi, and Slade.
It wasn't too long ago when we were talking about the options that England have, or should I say the versatility of shifting players out. So you can have Farrell at 10, Tuilagi at 12, or you can have Farrell at 12, Tuilagi at 13. And it wasn't too long ago we were looking at that as a massive asset. And I don't think it's so bad at the moment, but I agree with one thing. If you looked at the inexperience that was on the field for England on Saturday, it was crazy. The front row was experienced. Maro Itoje was experienced. Then 5, 6, 7, 8 were inexperienced. 9 was inexperienced. 10 was inexperienced. 11, 12, 13, and 15, or was it 12, 13, 14, and 15? So there was no... I'm a big, massive fan of, like, when you're in the shit, you've got to look at a player next to you. If you're inexperienced, you've got to look at a player next to you, and he's got to be like, it's cool, bro, you got this. Like, this is what we're going to do. And I know that it didn't flow in the game, but when Farrell came on, it's not that Marcus Smith had a bad game on Saturday. It's just they were lacking that direction. And when Farrell came on, I mean, they scored a try, and that's largely got to do with what Farrell did. But it's because it was more that direction. Like, this is what we're doing, and everyone buys into it. So I'm with you, Cooks. I don't want to make wholesale changes, and I think Smith should probably start again. But you've got to make a change at 9, and probably I know, like I said, I want to make changes. We've got to make a forced change with at 12. And then I'd like to see Marchant at 13. I'm obviously a big fan, but I have no problem with Slade, who hasn't been the best since his return.
Yeah, so I don't think the biggest problem with England's performances have been their backline. I think their main issue has been in the pack. And yeah,
100%.
I don't see a point in starting Ben Youngs this weekend. Like, I see what you guys are getting at, getting experience on the pitch, but outside of Youngs, there's no one else in England that really has experience that is definitely going to the World Cup. Like, Harlequins fans can lie to themselves and think that Danny Care is somehow going to get a recall under Borthwick. He doesn't suit Borthwick's style.
Please don't hurt. But he's brilliant.
He is. I really do love him as a player, but
I'm with you. Sorry.
I don't see him going to the World Cup. So yeah, why play Youngs in a match that he really doesn't have to play in? Because let's be honest, it's not like England have any chance of winning the Six Nations. The hopes are done for. So yeah, get Van Port Fleet an extra 60 minutes under his belt, get another 20 under Alex Mitchell, and yeah, when the World Cup rolls around, like Ireland do with Johnny Sexton, you pull Ben Youngs out of no man's land and chuck him straight into the trenches, and he'll be fine because he's got the experience to do it. So for me, the England backline, they really haven't been that bad. Yes, there's been some defensive issues and stuff that takes a while to get sorted, but we've also been speaking this whole entire World Cup cycle about how the Springboks had to make up that 1 year that we missed out entirely on Test rugby. Now Borthwick is trying to shove the 4 years worth of his implementation and his ideas into 6 months, which is a ridiculous amount of time. So yeah, I think the backline, they're pretty much fine, but what England should be doing this weekend is just trying to get their forward pack to muscle up. They were bullied by France, absolutely taken to the cleaners. And I think it was the Boks who said it during the World Cup that Japan wanted to take you to the dance floor, but the Boks were going to take them to the gutters. And that's sort of what England have to do this weekend, pull their team up with as many bastards as they do have. I don't think they have as many as they probably should have, and that's probably the Premiership's fault. But get as many bastards in the pack as you can, and just try make it a dogfight up front.
Everyone is pretty much clear on what needs to change. You could see it on Saturday, and I know Dombrandt's getting a lot of heat. Dombrandt's getting heat because he would have to play outside of his style to fit what England needs. England, their front row is fine. I mean, you can argue about changing one or two players, but in terms of their roles is fine. Itoje at 4 is fine. Then for me, like Ribbons or someone like a big bulky carrier at 4, at 5 or in the locks, I don't really care where. And then you've got to have a carrier at 8 or have Laws back. But I'm happy with the way the flanks have been. The flanks have been fine. It's just, I think the bottom line is it's just unbalanced. Like, I don't see how that they haven't brought Billy Vunipola back, who fell out of favor, has been playing decent rugby, and everyone will complain about it, but that's literally what they need. And I agree in that it's almost like one person will do something that will change the flow of the entire team. So I'm interested to see how this plan unfolds. I mean, even Sam Simmons, he's still in there. I don't think he's injured. Like, he is a more a tighter 8. So it's just interesting. I'd love to know what's happening and how it's going to unfold.
Yeah, I think it was Andy Good that said it's a personal thing with Borthwick and Vunipola. He made that claim this week, but I'm not convinced with Dombrandt. But yeah, people are saying that he's playing a different role than what he does at Quins. But yeah, sometimes you have to do that as a player. You have to fit. If you want to carry on playing Test rugby, you have to mold your game into what the head coaches want you to do. Lots of players have done it throughout their careers, and the players that don't end up having long Test careers. So unfortunately,
100%. But
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but when a player needs to do that, like, he's going to have some guidance around him. Dombrandt doesn't have that guidance around him because everyone is pretty green. And then also, like, you when you're under pressure, when anyone's under pressure, when you get tired, when you're under pressure, when you're out of breath and struggling, or you're losing and you're chasing the game, everyone automatically falls into default mode, and default mode is not what they needed. Like you said, they needed him to play a different role. But it's hard doing that when everyone's chasing the game and everyone's kind of deer in the headlights because there's no real experience around there. It's hard, but I don't know, maybe he's just throwing like shit against the wall and hopefully something will stick, or he's basically seeing the mettle of every one of the players before he makes a final call for the World Cup and just writes off the Six Nations, which is what England really didn't need as a fan base, especially because they fired Eddie Jones because they wanted to win the Six Nations, you know?
No, 100%. And
but even like,
go for it, Cooks.
No, go, Jared. Yeah, I'm sure. Like, even on the point, Jared. Sorry, Joe.
No, just the last point on Vunipola is that, like, he played pretty much the whole of last year under Eddie Jones, and I'm not going to lie, there wasn't a Test match that I really thought, England are stuffed without Billy. Like, they have options at number 8, and he's a good one, but he's not the best one. But yeah, for me, Ludlam must just play 8. Get another flanker in there. George Martin's back. Get him in there.
Yeah, I think the English pack, it's such a hard thing, especially if you look at, with Laws and Curry injured. Tom Curry, those are massive losses. But I do think, for example, in that French game, you needed someone like Billy Vunipola. At least you're going to get that some sort of go forward ball, especially even if you're going backwards. At least Billy's able to sort of, if it's coming backwards, to pick it up and then try to create some sort of momentum. But I think we mentioned this on Monday, and we mentioned in the group that for me with England, the hard thing with Broadwick is they leave in the Six Nations and they arguably know 5 or 6 or 7 guys in the 23. And there's a lot more questions and answers. Like, no one knows who's what team they wanted. You look at English fans now, it's so funny because they almost attacking Borthwick for playing youngsters, the same thing that Eddie Jones was trying to do. So the same thing Eddie Jones is doing, Borthwick has to do now. And it's like, oh, why can't we add more experience? Why is no Danny K? Why can't we add a Winnipeg? Why can't we need more guys? But we don't need all the youngsters. And then like it's such a tough situation for Borthwick to be in, to start coaching aside when you get the job January. But I think this weekend for me, England, I think it's more about, just saving face after last weekend. I mean, they can't just roll over again and let Ireland have their way. And I just feel like Ireland's also too good. I think Ireland's too good to fall under the spell of England and make it into an emotional game. Ireland knows what they need to do. They want to win a Grand Slam. They want to keep building. But I think England's going to try and make the game as emotionally charged up as possible, or it could be a 20-point win, 30-point win for Ireland.
Cooks and then Jared, maybe you can go as well. Is it not just time to admit that maybe England just doesn't have the players? Like, I'm talking about maybe getting in someone like Dan Cole to be a better tight head, maybe someone like George Martin to be at 6. I mean, what you expect, not really the best players ever. And Manti Lagi making like his 20th comeback, he's just not been the same player he's been this time. Like, I think England maybe should just lean into maybe just being, in their sort of lightweight, shredding era. And, you're not going to have the big bastards anymore. Just need to try and play clever way with the talent that you have. Or, just try to lean on sort of the fundamentals that you have. Because, I think the days are gone that England can really just rock up and really match the best of the best teams physically.
Yeah, totally. That's a great point. I think, it could be a situation where they just too far behind Ireland and France. And I think, I do think Steve Borthwick is a fantastic coach, but you look at this English side, and you look at them now without Eddie Jones, it does kind of feel like Eddie Jones sort of punched above his weight, and the quality that he brings, it always gives England a puncher's chance. I mean, I know Steve Borthwick's only coached 5 international games, so I know he's going to get better. But, it's starting to feel, this is a very early take that this World Cup has come a year too soon for them, especially with Borthwick. And it might be, obviously, try their best to compete. Likely they're in the lighter side of the draw. But, it might feel this World Cup has come a year too soon for them. And I just, feel like they may not have the players, and certain players, like experienced guys, like you look at Farrell, for example, he's on the loose form. He's not kicking as well as he used to. Ben Young still hanging around, but he is not playing. And where do they go from here? I mean, like, that's the question. Like, what other players they bring in? Hopefully, Laws comes back and Kyrie will be back for the World Cup. But it may be time to admit the players. And unfortunately for Steve Borthwick, he may not have that international experience right now to sort of bridge that gap where Eddie Jones would have been able to.
Yeah, I agree with you, Cooks, and I think a lot of some of the blame does have to fall on the Premiership clubs for not developing the kind of players that are needed as call them test match animals. Like you look at somebody like Etzebeth. How many Etzebeth style players are roaming about the Premiership? And not very many. When I say roaming around the Premiership, being English qualified, you sort of look at the teams. Harlequins have Ian Hurst playing that position for them. Saracens have Murray Torije, obviously. London Irish have Adam Coleman. Like, all of these players have been brought in from overseas. Exeter Chiefs have Johnny Gray, Janus Kirsten. So, yeah, Gloucester have Albert
Sale's
Tusui.
got the Dupreez.
Yeah, so I've got the Dupreez. Like, you're looking for these big aggressive forward players. And around the Premiership, they've gone and recruited these players from outside instead of developing them within their systems. And all the English players are very flashy players. And you need those big, powerful players in Test match rugby. We had Matthew Powerford talking on Supersport the other day saying that Eddie wanted to beef up the pack and get it more powerful to compete with the Southern Hemisphere sides. And yeah, he was trying to do that, but you can only work with what you got. And yeah, if you look now, this is the biggest issue about England's performances is they don't have the power in the pack. Even in their centres, if you take Lawrence and Tuilagi out of the equation, where is there a big aggressive running centre in the Premiership? There just isn't. I think Mark Atkinson is one of the few guys, and he never got a chance under Eddie Jones. He was unable to convince him to give him more opportunities in the side. And I think he might be injured now, but I don't see him coming in under Borthwick either. So, yeah. Even a side like Northampton Saints, they went and got Australians to come and be their bruisers. They got Lucan Salaka-Lotto and can't think of the other guy's name right now, but so it's another Australian. So, yeah, I think the England team have been somewhat let down by the Premiership clubs and the style that the Premiership has have adopted, and the more running rugby, entertaining rugby, and it's just not bearing fruit for the English team.
You know that if the RFU and Prem realize or decide that this is a hassle, it's going to be very interesting. I mean, if you think about what's happening financially with the clubs, and then now this, I mean, the wealthiest rugby union in the world, they obviously expect better
outside of France.
Outside of France, yes, but isn't the RFU the richest union?
Yeah.
Always FFR. So not club rugby, but so they, if this comes through, like they're going to probably try and implement a GIF system or something like that. I mean, talking long term and obviously looking going on the extremes, but it's crazy. But we talk about eights and all that. Like if you look at bruises and everything, I tell you, I don't think Ruan Ackerman is far away from getting a call up, unless I'm sure he's qualified already comfortably a year or two. But he's never really been. Yeah, he's never really been in the mix. He's not ever been in the conversation. But you're right in terms of players that have come through and that have been drafted in to clubs to fill those gaps that have mostly been foreign. But maybe the pack of cards is going to crumble. I didn't think it would, but I mean it's pretty sustainable in France. It's not sustainable in England at the moment, it looks like, and now they're hurting on the international side. That's going to cause issues big time.
And then just finally, before we go to the next match, I'll start with Sean. Who would be the Six Nations player of the tournament would likely come from Ireland, unless there's a big surprise on Saturday. Out of those Irish boys, who would be your Six Nations player of the tournament?
Well, if I'm only limited to Ireland, it would probably be Caelan Doris, but he's injured and going to miss the last game. So, don't know. Hugo Keenan. I think if it's got to be an Irish player and he's going to play every game, it's going to be Hugo Keenan. He's been incredible. I think other guys that have put their hand up have been Gael Fickou. I think he's been really good. Trying to think. Obviously, Huey Pilotu. Either one of them can get in a shot, but probably Hugh Jones is probably the front runner there. And I'm really bummed that I didn't get to. So I picked Crosby as the young player of the tournament, and unfortunately he wasn't started as much as I thought he would for Scotland. Honestly, and I never put it down, which is I'm regretting now. But someone that I was going to name as young player was Jack Dempsey, and he also hadn't been starting. But when he started this weekend, he was rampaging. I mean, he made like 22 tackles or something stupid. And I would have loved Dempsey to get young player of the tournament, considering it's his first Six Nations and he's like 38 years old. Anyway, but yeah, out of Ireland, Hugo Keenan, obviously that's with Ringrose's injury and Doris's injury and all that sort of jazz. Probably Keenan.
And then Jared Cooks, anyone else you want to nominate? I just want to note that Mac Hansen has 2 man of the match performances in a row.
So is that your pick then? A little subtle nudge.
Just saying.
Yeah, I thought Hansen was a bit lucky to get it in round, what was it, round 3 of the tournament. So I thought he was a bit lucky, to be honest. But I think Keenan's a great shout for it. I think Sharky's picked the best of the Irish for that one, outside of Joburg's finest, of course. I think a lot of the Ireland team they've lost a few key players that made a good shot early on. I don't think we can understate how key Andrew Porter has been for them. He's gone deep into a lot of matches and probably won't get any recognition because he plays in the front row and he's not got a number 2 on his back. But I think he deserves he deserves a good shot. I think it's been amazing. It's been amazing to see Charles Olivon back on Six Nations matches, and he's thrived in it. But Theobald Flamont, the fly half from Lambro, is probably the man that I'd go if it's not from Ireland. I think he should probably get it. He's been unreal for France the entire tournament.
Do you know that he played 4th division rugby at varsity?
No ways.
Did you know?
I heard he played in Argentina,
and he was playing. Yeah, and he was playing in England. He didn't even get a look in anywhere in France. He was studying and he was playing 4th division, and then he's just. I can't believe you guys didn't hear this. Yeah, it's amazing.
No,
bit of a stuff that I did a deep dive on him. I thought you guys would know. I might have mentioned to you, but no one else knows it. It's never.
Thanks for that deep dive research, Sean. We really appreciate that kind of insights on the Rugby Bits podcast.
You're welcome. Pub quiz. There, you guys keep it for pub quiz.
Excellent.
Yeah, thanks for that information. And maybe speaking of, let's get into that second game of the day, which is the France-Wales game in Paris. Yeah, it doesn't look great for Wales, but we didn't have really a chance to talk about the Welsh game in the last podcast. Jared, do you think Wales showed improvement in the game against Italy? Are there things that they are sort of doing better? They're sort of growing and getting better, or was it just a matter of Italy not refusing to kick any ball that they get?
Yeah, it must be so frustrating watching the Italian team as a Italy fan, because while everyone else is screaming for their team to stop kicking the bloody ball, they screaming for Italy to kick the ball. I think Varney has quite a bit to learn, and Garbisi in the same breath about a bit of game management and playing in the right areas of the pitch. But yeah, I think Squidge said it, that Italy were so focused on winning the game that they didn't they were so focused on scoring tries to win the game that they didn't actually focus on getting the ball over the line. So I think that cost them a lot. But I think we did start seeing a bit more Warren Ball come through with Wales. I think he's also going through the paces of giving young players the opportunity and learning about this new squad of his. And yeah, I thought it was an inspired performance by Rhys Webb. I thought he was fantastic. He controlled the tempo of Wales' attack much better, and he kept them guessing and pinned them in testing situations. I think it was a tough game for Tommy Allen to play fullback in. I think they might have been a bit better off playing Padovani at the back and getting another winger in. But yeah, we sort of spoke about it. Sean and I spoke about it on the other podcast that the Italians sort of need to pick a center their game plan around their players, and they obviously felt that Allen was the best option at fullback in place of Capuozzo. So yeah, overall, I think it was a better performance by Wales, and yeah, Rhys Webb played a big part in it.
Yeah, and then where are Wales now, Sean, with, Warren Gatland has been very clear in trying to sort of chop and change and see pretty much all the people in the squad. Do you think he has a better idea of what's his best 15 or best 23?
Same as I mentioned with England earlier, but I think more so with Wales, and we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago. I think he's just trying to give people experience, time in the saddle, sort that out, and just kind of gain a little bit of direction before I suspect that we will see for the World Cup that he will probably go more conservative, older squad, and then have some of these youngsters and new guys filling in the gaps. Loving the center options, but I don't think that they are going to be your starting pair going into the World Cup. You're probably going to be looking at a couple of the other older guys to come through. Jared's bang on with Webb. Webb was flipping outstanding, and was a great interview afterwards. Quite emotional about how he's just got to make sure that he's ready when his time comes, and he's thrown a spanner in the works in terms of giving Gatland some extra thought on who he's going to be selecting. But I think Wales will be significantly better in the World Cup. I don't think I think Wales would be are in a better place than England are currently, if it makes sense, even though the log position doesn't suggest it. But I do think Wales are probably in a better space.
Sure, I was going to say the exact same thing. I'm glad you got the hot take out before I did, saying Wales in a better spot than England, because I genuinely, it kind of felt like
Italy in a better spot, mate.
I mean, it's with Wales, I'm not as I know obviously there's a lot going on behind the scenes in Welsh rugby, but I feel like I look at Wales, for example, and when you come World Cup time, and I feel like Gatland sort of, in his way, it's almost like these 5 games, like almost like a trial, like an extended trial period. That just like, I'm going to try a sort of combination, see what I have, see what's going on. You try, obviously, there's a big mess behind the scenes, but I feel like for him, the Six Nations is sort of, it's just, I'm going to give as much caps as possible and sort of see what's going to happen, and then come World Cup time. So I still would not like to play Wales in the World Cup. I think they still have enough experience and a little bit of quality to sort of, especially on the side of the draw they're in, to sneak around and will mess around and find themselves in a semi-final. But I do think I'm not as down on Wales as probably the Welsh, the people in Wales are. But I mean, this weekend, I mean, obviously I haven't seen them beating France, but I do see them getting better.
But Cooks, is that not just the Gatland effect? Because we've known and we've seen what he's done with Wales in the past, and sort of just a bit more frightened of Gatland than we are of Borthwick. Not to say Borthwick is a bad coach, but we all know what Gatland has done for the last decade for Wales.
100%, Jared. I think it probably is 70% based on the Gatland effect. I mean, I think Gatland is fantastic. Right? He's a fantastic coach, and you've seen what he's done with Welsh side, and you've seen he's made them sort of play above their talent level. Apologize to any of the Welsh players, but you've seen the quality that Gatland can produce, and I do think him coming like him with the squad he's in a better place than what Wayne Pivac would have done, because I think Gatland can elevate that squad, and he's done it before, and I think he backs himself to do it again, which is unfortunate with Borthwick. In that boat where, like, can he just experience? I think that's the big thing. I mean, that's what could come back to hurt Borthwick. But with Gatland, I'm a Gatland guy. I do trust him. I do believe in a bit of Warren Ball, and I mean, like, I don't know if I hope the Pox don't end up playing Wales again in the semi-final. Because you might see another kick fest, as Rassie would say, we might fall asleep again. But it's just it's so hard for me to write off a Warren Gatland side, a Warren Gatland coach Wales side.
Why are we talking about Wales and Italy when Scotland are playing Italy? 100%
No, I think we were just finishing off on Wales. Yeah, I threw the question at Cooks if that he's more scared of Wales more than England. But
fair enough.
Yeah, that came from your hot take, Sean. That Wales are in a better place than England, which I don't think it's that spicy, to be honest. I think it's pretty spot on. Like it sounds a lot spicier than it is because England beat Wales, but Wales also, they've got Warren Gatland.
Yeah. So sorry, I'm back in the mix now, and I picked a terrible time to read an email. That's obviously not paying attention. But right, so France, we're obviously going around this backwards, but France, Wales. So Wales in a decent position, but I mean they're going up against France in Paris. What are you expecting from France? Are you expecting them to roll out the big boys and just slam it? Jared?
Yeah, I don't think they'd be resting players. They obviously in with the shot. They need a favor from England of all people. Like we're not expecting England to roll Ireland, but France will go all guns blazing to try and post a big enough score to put them in a position to win the competition. If Ireland do slip up, they were without Paul Willemse this weekend, which is a bit of a blow. But I'm seeing that Charles Olivon might go into the second row with Makalou starting at flank. So Tyler spoke about Francois Krop playing brilliantly last week, and I think they would be pretty well off even without Willemse locking in the target over there.
Cooks, France. I mean, I agree. I expect him to roll out the big boys. There'll be some changes, but France. Do you reckon that they will do enough against Wales? They're under pressure to really put up a big score. You reckon they'll do enough against Wales to make Ireland look over their shoulder?
I think Ireland's already looking over their shoulder from the weekend's game. I think Ireland. I do feel like Ireland and France kind of know that they're the two best sides in the competition, and it's almost like it feels like when the Six Nations ends, it'll feel like almost like a 1-1 because obviously France beat. I mean, Ireland won every game last year except for the French game, and France should win every game this year, barring the Irish game. So that they probably still feel like they evenly matched. So, but I do think France. I mean, we'll get the bonus point. I think France will be looking to finish off the competition with a strong performance. And the nice thing about the ideal thing for the sides in the Six Nations is the fact that CJR said Six Nations instead of Five Nations. I've moved on since 2001.
Well done.
With France, I mean, the sides of Six Nations is the benefit of their next test is only around August, and so they do have time in between. And yes, some players will be rested in between; they can be managed. But this is a last chance, sort of get to be together and sort of make another statement. And I think that's what France will want to do and show that they are. Because I don't think. I mean, Ireland's were the best side this year, but if you were to rank them, it's probably they're like number 1 and 1A. They so evenly matched that France will feel like they can still put being Ireland, and Ireland will always be looking at France. They will always be looking behind them and see what the French are doing. So I think the Six Nations still been a good campaign for France, and I think they'll end it off positively this weekend.
Okay. So unfortunately, we've only got 7 minutes left. So 5 minutes, we're going to have to chat about Scotland, Italy. And I really wanted to give them a little bit more love. They definitely, both sides definitely deserve more. But Cooks, I'm going to start with you on Scotland, and then Jared, I'm going to go to you on Italy. Cooks, Scotland are obviously without their two talisman at 10 and 15. They've gone through a few changes, but they've got the grunt up front. You reckon that Kinghorn's going to be playing at 10, or they're going to draft him in at 15? And how do you see them mentally preparing and focusing for this at home against Italy?
I think Kinghorn will go in at 10. I think, Gregor Townsend has played him at 10 several times. He's taken him as the 10 on tour, but I definitely think he'll go in with him at 10. And for Scotland, the biggest thing for me this game is all the progress they've made this year, the Six Nations. falls to shit if they lose on the weekend, because if they win 3 and out of 5 and the only 2 they've lost in the 2 best competitions, it's they've made better strides than they made last year when they could only beat England and then sort of fall apart against everyone else. But I think for them, the most important thing without Finn and Stuart Hogg is to win this game and make a statement and be like, listen, we are moving in the right direction. But knowing Scotland, they could, like I said, Scotland loves giving their fans hope and then just letting them down. They could fall apart and then lose on the weekend. But this game for them is so crucial for their development to show that they have actually made strides going forward. And they're not just a side that raises themselves up to play England and raises themselves up in certain moments. So I think this game for them is one of the most important of the competition.
Yes, great point. Great point. Jared, Italy. So we've gone through, I mean, it's pretty evident that their issue lies in their inability to kick well and their inability to kick full stop, along with one of the most exciting parts of the game, which is running from everywhere. So essentially it falls down to game management. Now, I was loving that Garbisi made the comeback because I wasn't happy with Allen at 10 for the opening 2 games. But I almost felt that Allen would probably be the best shout at 10 had Kapowatso not been injured. Do you think that the style that they're playing now, that Allen might be the best shout? And obviously, Italy, looking at Scotland, they would have highlighted this game on the calendar as the one that they're going to win, them and Wales. But they would have looked to take 2 wins this season out of the 6 nations. That would have been Wales and Scotland. Do you reckon they could do it?
I think they can definitely do it. I'm going to come back around to the Garbisi question. I think Garbisi is their main man. Like, I think what they sort of looking at with Garbisi is him becoming the Italian Sexton, that everything revolves around Garbisi. And I don't think it's a bad decision to do that. Yes, it puts you in a sticky situation when he's unavailable, but I do think he's comfortably the best fly half that they have at their disposal. And I think we saw that a little bit when Italy had a few opportunities in the opening 2 rounds without him, and Allen sort of had a little bit choke-ups with a kick into touch and getting 10 meters where most fly halves would have easily got 20 meters, not putting his foot down kind of thing. So, yeah, I think Garbisi's the best option at 10, and they have to continue with that. Like I alluded to earlier, they should maybe look at getting Padovani in at fullback and bringing somebody else onto the wing. I think it could do a great deal for their game. But yeah, I think that's small things. I do want to throw some shade at Scotland before the podcast ends. I think Tinkering Tooney is going to come back out of hibernation just for the last round of the 6 Nations, and he's going to do some wild things. And I think he's going to move Hugh Jones to fullback. Yeah, he's going to move Hugh Jones to fullback. He's going to play Blair Kinghorn at fly half. He's going to bring Chris Harris in, which is probably the most non-risky selection he would have made the entire competition. But after making almost no changes to his backline, Tinkering Tooney's fingers will be twitching and he will finally pull the trigger. So yeah.
Just on that, I think it's the greatest shot, because for me, Kinghorn should be playing at 10 and not at 15. When you can play Kinghorn at 10 and you're reasonably well covered and allowing Hugh Jones to still use his attack, and then you can lean on the Harris defensive setup. I think that's probably the most balanced and could cause hassles moving forward if they have a good game.
I think what they do is they throw Ben Healy in at fly half. You put Kinghorn at fullback, and you leave the Sens partnership as is. Keep Chris Harris on the bench, and if things are falling apart with debutants Ben Healy at fly half, you pull him off stick, and then you go to the setup. So
go back to that last one.
Yeah, I think they're better off starting Ben Healy at fly half. I do also want to throw a little bit more shade at Jamie Ritchie. I think he's a fantastic player, but yeah, we constantly got we got some back chat about Mapimpi and Bongi from the Scotland fans last year, and Richie has been blown up twice the Six Nations for back chat as captain. That is not acceptable. He pretty much lost the game for them against France.
And it happened in November.
And it happened in November, and he was going off at Montoya. So, yeah, I think he's a great player, and I think that's one side of his captaincy he really has to sort out. You know your limits with the referees, and both times he's been blown back, this Six Nations has been right calls, and he's really taken it overboard. And then, Sean, I don't know if you want to have one final chat about Kieran Crawley and his post-match interview.
Well, I'll get your thoughts on it, but I actually didn't watch it. I saw everything blew up on it, and I got sidetracked, and I never even got back to it. But he had words about the referee, I believe. So, yeah, give us a rundown, and then Cooks, jump in if you want to comment.
Yeah, so he pretty much called out the referees and the TMOs and everyone in between about the decisions that went against his side, and probably rightly so. But one of the biggest things that I loved from his interview, besides keeping aside the fact that he probably shouldn't have done it, and it's not a good look for the competition, but he talks about how that he's sick and tired of going through the correct in inverted commas channels with World Rugby and just getting a response of, oh no, we got that one wrong, sorry about that. So yeah, but sounds very familiar. I don't know if you guys feel the same.
Sounds like a certain director of rugby we have here in South Africa.
No, who is it?
But,
no.
But the thing is, like, it is tough because I mean, for Italy, those calls tend to not go their way, and if you're going about in the right channels, and it's frustrating when you get that same, oh, listen, we got it wrong, but next week we'll fix it, and those calls keep going against you. It's a tough place to be, especially in the fine margins of Test rugby. And the thing that's happening, I mean, we've had several coaches obviously come out and talk about the procedure, the process of doing it. So if the more coaches bring it up, then clearly World Rugby has to look at that process. How does it work in terms of in the calls being made and things like that? Because at the moment now, because I mean, rugby is a game that hinges on the referees also, because so much of the game is left up to how the ref interprets the laws. So, I mean, I do feel for Kieran Crowley, and it's tough, especially if you win a side like Italy. Those calls tend to not go your way. So, I don't know what the right way to go about it is, because if you go the right channels, you get the same answers. If you tweet about it or you make a video about it, then you can't go into stadiums. So then you need to find a middle ground of what is the right way to go about it before you go to the World Cup. Because I don't think we need Kieran Crowley now banned from stadiums, and then what's next? If I make a comment about the referee on Twitter, am I going to be banned from my couch or the bar or watch the game at? So we need to find answers quickly. I mean, September's rolling around quickly.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And the guys make those comments out of frustration, because they know, everyone knows that the channels are being followed, but nothing comes of it. So it's made out of frustration. It's brought into everyone's eye line, and then we get to discuss it, and then it creates change. So disruption will create change. It's just the how part. Sorry, Jared.
Yeah, but I think you guys are spot on, and I don't think it's a bad thing if coaches constantly bring up, maybe not in the way Crowley did, but constantly bring up the fact that the system doesn't work. Because, I mean, Wayne Barnes sort of led it after his backlash that he got from Russie's tweets and that kind of thing. But we now have a referee association or union that has formed, and you will only get that sort of thing when World Rugby is not really protecting the referees as much as they should, or creating the right kind of channels for open debate between the coaches and the referees. So, yeah, I think we sort of starting to. I think the coaches do need to keep keep the pressure on there. But yeah, probably not in the way that Kieran Crowley did, because I think he was quite harsh, and I do believe that World Rugby could have stepped in with some sort of statement or sanction or hearing or something, because you obviously don't want referees. We want referees in games going forward, or young people to take up refereeing, and they won't if they hear comments like that.
You see, and Jared, I mean, you're 100% right, but I also think like now World Rugby, by not doing anything about it, it puts themselves in a corner. Because, for example, if I'm Rassie Erasmus and I'm going, okay, cool, but look what Kieran Crowley did. Are you not gonna do anything about that? So now it creates this agenda that it's basically the rest versus the Springboks, because the rest of World Rugby versus the Springboks, because Russ is going, well, if I say something and I'm getting sanctioned, I'm getting called in, there's things happening, but if someone else says that, nothing happens to them. When Eddie Jones goes off with the referees in his press conferences, nothing happens to him. So it's like, so now what happens now if you sitting there across, like, so am I the problem? So now sort of World Rugby is sort of backing themselves in the corner by not having taken out a statement or put a sanction on or done something to Kieran Crowley or said something. They put themselves in a corner. And I know, for example, the Springboks, they're very meticulous in their way. They don't forget things. They watch everything. So they all go to the World Rugby and be like, listen, guys, so there's nothing going to happen here. So then is it free reign for us? But then also it gets to a point where, because there's a fine line, because might get to a point where coaches go, I'm actually not going to say anything, because if I say something, I'm going to get in trouble. But then you should know that's the mandate. So, I think World Rugby needs to do something, because otherwise they're backing themselves in a corner where there's the odd teams that watch the response, they watch what happens to other coaches, and if they're going to say something, if I'm Rassie Erasmus, well, I'm going to keep chiming in, because you're not going to punish me if you're going to punish Kieran Crowley, who's calling you guys out to post at the end of the game. So. So World Rugby, they got to find a way to sort this out and quickly.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, Cooks.
That's one thing I think we all agree on.
Yeah, so sorry. The last point on it is that a lot of people said, "Oh no, Crawley got it in the heat of the moments." It was post-match, right after the final whistle. But then he went off into the change rooms, came out for the press conference, and reiterated a lot of his points that he said in the previous interview. So he did have time to sort of recollect himself, and still came out with the same message.
Oh, double down. Love it. But the right thing is you've got to create the pressure. We all want the right calls made. Like no matter what. Like with Scotland taking a quick throw in with the incorrect ball, everyone's up in arms, and the Irish are trying to convince the ref that it's their mistake, and let's just call it within the laws. And that's it. If it's not called within the laws, we need to understand why and make sure it's minimized in the future. So hopefully we'll see a bit of change. But closing off on the Six Nations, so this is how it sits at the moment. Ireland number 1 with 19 points. France second place with 15 points. Scotland third in 10. England fourth in 10. And then Wales 5. Italy 1. We're in a position where obviously the nice part of the Six Nations and the way it's set up is Scotland, Italy play first. But the big games are the last 2 games on Saturday. France, Wales. We're all expecting France to take 5 points out of that game. Am I correct, gents?
Yep.
Yeah. So we're expecting France to take 5 points out of that game and put a decent score on the board. The points difference. So if teams are level, there's a points difference is the next in line. And the points difference is 20 points between France and Ireland at the moment. So that's definitely achievable by France. So France bonus point win, let's say they put 15 points on Wales and take 5 points. They move up to 20 with a plus 61 points difference. If Ireland lose to England with a bonus point and 4 points or 5 points, we'll see France win the championship. So there's a hell of a lot going on. No one really expecting Ireland to lose in Dublin against England, especially this England side. So we're expecting Ireland to grand slam it. But France have a chance. So, Jared, you quickly. France, where we've gone through that. Ireland, England, who do you reckon is going to win?
I think Ireland will win. I don't think they'll worry too much about a bonus
Grand
points.
Slam.
I don't know if they'll even.
Yeah.
I think they'll Grand Slam it. They'll get over the line. Six dog is playing, so I think Ireland will win.
Okay. Cooks.
Yeah, same. I think Ireland wins. I don't think it'll be a bonus point. I think they're just going to get the job done.
Doesn't matter as long as they
get the job done and get stuck into those Guinness. It's going to be a terrible weekend to be a Guinness this weekend on Saturday.
Well, I'll tell you.
St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, on Friday. It's St. Patrick's Day on Friday. So the boys, Ireland and most of the world, I mean, everyone's Irish on St. Patrick's Day. But yeah, they're going to be hungover leading into the game. And then they're going to have to drink the hangover away and celebrate a Grand Slam and a win over England. So come Tuesday next week, we might be getting some podcasts out of Ireland, but I don't think we'll be getting anything before that. So
no, 100% not.
Yeah, exactly. So wrapping up this bonus podcast that we've put through, just want to say thanks to everyone. Tyler unfortunately had a bit of technical issues, but Jared, Cooks, thank you. It was an absolute dream. Everyone, please. Everyone's Irish on Friday. Enjoy a pint of Guinness or perhaps a nice whiskey. And we'll catch up with you all on Monday. And all the best for the weekend's rugby. Thank you. Cheers, boys.